Have you ever had one of those days where you're just staring at your screen? You know exactly what you need to do, but you just can't make yourself do it? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful protocol that helps close that frustrating gap between what you want to do and what you actually get done.
I mean, it's such a universal feeling, isn't it? You've got the goal, you might even have a perfect plan, but it feels like there's this invisible wall stopping you. You feel stuck, maybe a little guilty, and you start wondering, what is wrong with me? It's honestly one of the biggest struggles we face.
And usually, our first instinct is to blame ourselves. We say things like, I'm just so lazy, or I don't have enough discipline. But here's the thing, that's a total myth. The truth is way more empowering. It's not some deep character flaw. It's a strategic problem. Your internal state simply isn't matched up with what the task requires from you. That's it.
So, if we want to solve this strategic problem, we've got to understand why we get stuck in the first place. And it all boils down to a really simple but honestly profound mistake in how we approach our goals. Think about it like you're using a GPS on your phone. To get anywhere, a map needs three things, right? It needs a destination, your point B. It needs the directions to get there. But, and this is the crucial part, it absolutely has to know where you're starting from, your point A. We are often crystal clear on our destination, but we completely ignore our starting point.
So what is your point A? Well, it's your internal state in this very moment. It's your energy level, your mood, how focused you feel, and even your underlying sense of safety. Trying to tackle a huge project when you're feeling drained and anxious is literally like trying to follow directions from New York when you're standing in Los Angeles. It's never going to work.
Okay, so if the big problem is that we ignore our starting point, the solution has to be a system that consciously gets our internal state ready for action. And that's exactly what this is, a reliable path that takes you from feeling stuck all the way to high performance.
And here it is. It's a simple three-stage process: safety, state, and success. Now, this is the most important part. They have to be done in this exact order. You can't just jump to the success stage if your state isn't ready. And you can't shift your state if you don't feel safe to begin with. This sequence is the key that unlocks everything.
So what do we mean by safety? It's that core feeling that you're okay right now and that you're going to be okay. Now, this isn't just about being in a physically safe room. A huge part of this is your internal safety. Think about it. If you're beating yourself up for procrastinating, you're literally creating an unsafe environment inside your own head. You're attacking yourself, and that puts your entire system on high alert. You can't perform when you're under attack.
A really powerful way to build that safety is with the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. It's super simple. You just pull your attention back to your senses. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 things you can hear, and so on. It pulls you out of that mental storm and anchors you in the real, physical present, which is almost always a safe place to be.
All right, once you've got that foundation of safety, you're ready for stage 2, state. This is all about your physical and mental readiness for the task. This is where you actively and intentionally start to build the energy you're going to need. And you do it by pulling 3 main levers: your physiology, how you move your body, your focus, what you're paying attention to, and the meaning, the story you tell yourself about what's happening. And finally, after you've established safety and intentionally built your state, you get to arrive at success. This is the payoff. This is the performance phase where you do that deep, focused work, solve the hard problems, and make real, tangible progress. It's the destination we all want, but you can only get there consistently if you travel through the first 2 stages first. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do you actually shift your state? Especially on those days when you feel like you have absolutely zero energy. Let's get super practical with a tool that's designed for exactly that situation. And I want you to really let this sink in. When you feel like you just can't move, it is not your body being lazy. It's your body being incredibly wise. It's sensing that the energy this big task requires is way more than the energy you currently have. So what does it do? It conserves its resources. The trick isn't to force it, it's to gently build it up. And this is how we do it, with a movement ladder. Think of it as your own personal menu of physical actions, ranked from the absolute easiest thing you can imagine, all the way up to something more intense. The goal is to just gently ramp up your energy. You wouldn't try to jump from the ground to the top of a real ladder, right? No, you climb it one rung at a time. So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've got this ladder, but which rung do you start on? Because if you aim too high, you're just going to feel that same resistance and stay stuck.
So how do you find the perfect starting point for you right now?
The method is actually incredibly simple. You just test it. Look at your ladder, maybe at step 4, doing 10 push-ups, and you ask yourself, honestly, could I do that right now? If you feel even the slightest bit of internal resistance, that little, no way, that's your answer. So you move down a rung. Okay, could I just walk around the room? If that feels easy, accessible, like no big deal, boom, that's your starting line. You start where there is zero resistance.
Now this whole protocol, from the stages to the ladder, it's all guided by one final, really powerful idea. And this is what changes everything, from a rigid system of forcing yourself to do things into a flexible, compassionate practice of true self-leadership.
And that idea is the invitation. It's that small, gentle, internal nudge toward the next positive action. It's not that harsh inner critic yelling at you, "You should go for a run." It's that quiet little whisper that says, "You know, a glass of water sounds pretty good right now." Or, "What if we just stood up and stretched?" Real self-leadership isn't about pushing yourself with force. It's about learning to listen for these gentle invitations and then just following them.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question. Forget about that big, overwhelming task for just a second. Just check in with yourself and ask, what is the very first, tiniest step on your ladder that feels even remotely possible right now? Because the answer to that question, that's your real starting point for everything else.